The worst day of my life started off very well. I got up at 5:30 and worked out. After getting up, I ran 3 miles. It was very foggy and I was the only one on the track. After 3 miles, I cooled down by running in a straight line and going around corners for 2 more. I went home and took a shower. By the time I got dressed for work, Sarah had my muffin and a glass of chocolate milk on the counter. I kissed her and snuggled up to her, sipping my milk. She complained about wrinkling it and ruining her lipstick, but she snuggled up to me. She still made my heart race every time I saw her. At 31, she was more beautiful than ever. She'd gotten a healthy amount of fat compared to the skinny girl I'd brought to the prom when we were seniors. She still had a little over 5 feet in her, but she proved that dynamite comes in small packages too. She was a rising star in her law firm and was successful. After our girls were born, she got a lot of attention at some major corporations and they talked about a partner. She was making almost as much as I was, and things were going very well for me. I had just been promoted for the 5th time, and I was head of the architectural department in a large company of engineers and architects. I kissed her again and grabbed my briefcase and muffin on my way out the door. "Have a good day, beautiful," I waved goodbye. She kissed me as she gathered the girls for school. She left for work an hour after me and I had to go to bed. My second baby girl was in the garage. I had only owned it for 6 months. It was a burnt orange Charger Hellcat. I'd been driving Chargers since I was 16. My dad helped me buy a 1968 RT that still sits under the carport. Every once in a while I would pull it out and get behind the wheel to listen to the sound of the big Hemi through the Flowmaster pipes. It wasn't as fast as the Hellcat. I love hearing Mustang and Camaro owners brag about their little toys. Just 2 days before, one of the engineers was bragging about his new Shelby GT 350. Over 500 horsepower. He was trying to impress Maria from the office next door. I smiled at the thought of the Hellcat putting out over 700. I actually liked all the new pony cars, but they weren't in the same universe as the Hellcat, Charger, or Challenger. Hot rod owners are a class of people I like, and we all have our own babies and like to nitpick the other guys. I had a great day at work. I finished the powertrain our design team was working on at about 1:30 and took the afternoon off. I washed my baby. It was a beautiful afternoon and I could see myself polishing it as I put it in the garage. Sarah texted me and said she was going to be a little late. She was at a conference and would be home around 5. At 3:30, I was in the kitchen making chocolate chip cookies. I had 2 pans ready and the plate was on the bar. I heard the door open and through the living room came the voices of 2 little angels. 2 little blonde pixies set down their backpacks and flew across the kitchen to wrap their arms around me. Carmen and Combre, my baby girls, were home. They are identical twins and the cutest little bundles of joy on God's green earth. They have mommy's hair, freckles, and big blue eyes, but they have my complexion. Sarah can tan, but I have a naturally olive skin tone and they got my shade. It was a contrast to their hair and eyes. When they got older, they would be heartbreakers. At 8 years old, they were just adorable. They fought like hornets, but only with each other and Sarah. With me, they were just honey and silk and never let anyone speak ill of the other. Sarah had a hard time dealing with the 2 of them. I know they loved their mother very much, but as soon as she corrected one of them, the other would always take her sister's side, and they could argue as fiercely as their mother. They would interrupt each other, telling me how their day was going. School had only opened a week ago, and they really liked their new teacher. Miss Brooks was new to our neighborhood, and I had yet to meet her. She certainly made an impression on my girls. I fed them chocolate chip cookies and tall glasses of milk, listening to them with an idiotic grin on my face. Yes, they were my angels and could do no wrong. They would eat 3 cookies each and head upstairs to do their homework. Homework when they got home was my rule, and then the rest of the evening we could do whatever we wanted. I took the last cookie sheet out of the oven and put it on a plate. I heard Kember calling for me and started up the stairs. I felt something strange and realized my phone was vibrating. I pulled it out and I got a text message. The number looked familiar, but it wasn't in my contacts. I checked it as I walked up the stairs. "You were incredible today," I read. "Can't wait for tomorrow." While I appreciated the compliment, I had no idea who could have sent me such a text. Since I had no plans for the afternoon other than work, I figured someone had the wrong number. I decided to play a prank on whoever it was. "Thanks, babe," I wrote. "Remind me again about the time and place." I immediately got a text back. "Are you using Shell's phone? Be sure to delete it. Can't have Sheldon suspecting something too soon. Sure, at our house. I froze in place halfway to the girl's door. I'm Sheldon. Sheldon Clanton, and my phone number ends in 9. Sarah has the same one, but it ends in 8, and the girl's numbers end in 7 and 6. Someone made a big mistake. I was numb, unable to move. Carmen looked up at me. Daddy, we need help with these math problems. What's wrong, Daddy? Both girls stood up and stared at me. The look on my face must have shocked them. I shook off the cobwebs. Nothing, girls, it's just bad news. Nothing to worry, my babies, I lied. Let's look at math. 5 minutes later, I heard the garage door open. Sarah was home. I heard her pacing around, and after a minute, she peeked inside. What's for dinner? She asked. Hi, sweethearts. They jumped up and went to hug her. They came back and sat down, and Sarah came over and hugged me from behind by the neck. She stroked my ear. I'm going to go take a shower, she said. We were done with math, and I asked the little ones if they wanted to go to Incredible Pizza. They happily agreed, and by the time they had changed into shorts and t-shirts, I was waiting for them in the car. Isn't Mom coming? Asked Carmen. She's had a long day, I told them. Let's give her a rest. We'll turn off the phones and it'll just be me and my angels tonight, okay? They agreed, and we had a great time. I forgot to turn my phone off and it vibrated a dozen times. I ignored it and immersed myself back into games and mediocre pizza. We got home at 9:30 and Sarah was asleep on the couch with her phone in her hand. I put my finger to my lips and we tiptoed upstairs. They went to bed and I went to get tomorrow's clothes. I went to the spare bedroom and locked the door. I lay awake until midnight and heard a quiet knock on the door. Shell, what are you doing? I heard a stage whisper. Open the door. Where did you go and why the hell is the door locked? Why are you in there? I didn't answer and she knocked several times. She called my name a dozen times before giving up. She clearly didn't want to wake the girls, and I heard her footsteps retreating down the hallway towards our room. Or rather, it was our room, but I didn't know what it was like now. I got up at 5:30 and grabbed my clothes. As I walked to the garage, I heard her alarm go off. I got in the hell car and pulled back. I saw her enter the garage just as the door came down and drove to the park. I usually ran on the school track, but that day I ran in the park. My phone rang a dozen times, but I didn't pay attention to it. I showered and got dressed for work. At noon, I asked my buddy Marcus to lend me his Ultima. I felt like I was betraying everything I believed in by getting in that thing. But it looked like all the other little box-shaped cars on the road, and I wanted to blend in. Sarah's car was parked outside the office, and I stopped across the street and waited. The windows were dark, and I knew no one would be able to see me inside. At 2:30, Sarah came out and got into her BMW. I followed her at some distance, and we drove into the suburbs. When she turned into one of the suburbs, I realized where we were going. That's where my brother Mark lived. What the hell? Well, that sucked. Now I knew why the number looked familiar. He and I had never gotten along and hardly ever socialized. We only saw each other at family events, and that was too often for my liking. 2 years ago, I saw him put his hand on Sarah's ass, and I smacked him. We hadn't spoken since, though his wife and Sarah spent a lot of time together. I parked across the street and she pulled into his driveway. When she got out, she looked upset. She went into the house and I got out and walked around back. I had been there hundreds of times. I couldn't believe what I saw. Mark's wife, Chloe, was lying by the pool. It was getting weirder and weirder. She was an amazing woman. She was sophisticated and elegant. She just radiated class. She looked up at me when she heard the back gate close and panic was reflected on her face. Sheldon, she gasped. What are you doing here? I was climbing the steps to the deck when Chloe jumped up and ran toward me. Shell, wait, don't go in there. I have something to tell you. Wait. The screen was closed, but I could hear their conversation. Sarah was very agitated and he was trying to calm her down. I'm telling you something's wrong, she said. He slept in the spare bedroom last night, and this morning he left without saying a word to me. It was a mistake, Mark. I need more time to get him used to order. I know he thinks Chloe is beautiful, and we're going to have to let her work on him. I love my husband, and I'm not going to risk my marriage and children over this. You can talk him into it, he told her. We've seen the way he looks at Chloe. You don't have to talk me into it. We've talked about this a dozen times, and you know you want it. Yes, I like it, but I don't want to lose everything. If he entertains Chloe, he won't say anything and we'll just switch from time to time. Maybe we will since you're here. I can tell you want it. Yeah, but not that much. If Shell ever finds out about this, he'll die. I'm not going to do that, Mark. I looked over and saw them standing in the living room. He pulled her to him and kissed her. She resisted for a minute, but then she let him kiss her. I took some pictures and made a little video. He slid down the zipper of her dress and she reached out to stop him. I had seen enough. They jumped aside when they heard the screen door come down and I stepped through it. Sarah screamed. No. Oh God, no. Sheldon, it's not what you think. Please, Shell, I'm so sorry. I kept walking towards them and Mark was backing away as fast as he could. I just walked past them to the front door. Sarah ran up to me and hugged me from behind. Please, Shell, let's just go home. Things aren't what they seem. I promise I'll explain everything when we get home. Without another word, I walked out and got into the Ultima. All three of them got out and tried to chase me. I drove her back to the office and gave the keys to Marcus. 30 minutes later, my phone rang. I ignored it. About 5 minutes later, my secretary rang. Your wife is on line 3, she said. Tell her I'm unavailable, I replied. I spent the rest of the day staring at the computer screen. Your sister-in-law is on the phone, I heard 5 minutes later. I asked her to connect. What do you need, Chloe? Shell, we need to talk about this, she said. Why aren't you at home? You need to talk to Sarah. She'll explain everything. Mark and I will be there too. We'll talk about it like adults. It's your brother and your wife, Shell. You need to calm down. Why is it that when someone bullies you and pisses you off, they always say you need to calm down? It made me even angrier. I don't have a brother, I told her. If that asshole is in my house when I get back, I'm going to rip his balls off. If I see you there, I'm going to slap you out the door. Don't ever let me see you or hear your voice again, Chloe. Tells us Rons that if he sees me, tell him to run. I hung up the phone. 20 minutes later, Dad called. Sheldon, what's going on? He asked. Your brother and Chloe are here. They say you threatened them. Sarah called and she was crying and throwing a tantrum. I couldn't understand her. What have you done? Sarah is having fun with Mark, and she and CLO were planning to trick me into a wife swap. Dad, I don't have a brother. If I hear you let any of the three of them into your house after today, I won't have a father. If my mom lets them in the house or any of you ever say their names in front of me, I won't have a father or mother. Guess what? You raised an asshole and now you get to pick a side. Oh yeah, you won't have grandchildren either. You can't talk to me like... He started, and I hung up the phone. Maria walked in and asked something, but I couldn't hear what she said. Sheldon, I asked you a question, she said in a louder voice. I started. Oh, I'm sorry, Maria. What did you say? Are you okay? She asked. Tears ran down my cheeks and I couldn't stop them. She came over and put her arm around my shoulders. Did someone die? She asked. I'm so sorry, Sheldon. Who was it? I think it was my marriage and my family, I told her. The whole story came out as I buried my face in my hands and burst into tears. 10 years of my life flashed before my eyes. 10 beautiful years with the woman I loved and the woman I thought loved me. Did she sleep with him? She asked me. I think so, I replied. She was going to do it again tonight. She thought I'd figured them out and wanted to call the whole thing off. Why would she do that, Maria? I loved her with every cell in my body. I would have died for her. How could she do this to our girls? What did those 2 little girls do to deserve this? Sheldon, go home and talk to her, she said. Find out the answers to these questions. You'll never rest until you do. Get out of here. I hugged her. Thank you, Maria. You're a good friend. Please don't tell anyone about this. She looked hurt. Jesus, Sheldon. How could you say something like that? You know I won't tell anyone. I apologized and she hugged me again. I know you're upset. Just go home and try to work things out. My phone had been going off since I got back to the office, ringing on the way home until I turned it off. As I pulled into the garage, Sarah came running out of there. She stood next to the door and I sat there for a minute gathering my thoughts. She started pounding on the window with her fist. Sheldon, just come out and talk to me, please. I'm begging you, just let me talk to you. I opened the door and she tried to hug me. I pushed her away. I think she was shocked. I wasn't a violent person, and I had never touched her once in our entire life. Don't touch me, Sarah, I told her. You make me feel like I need a shower. She burst into tears. Okay, I won't. Please, Shell, just come inside and let me talk to you. You have until the girls come home, I told her. When they get home, the conversation will be over and we'll pretend everything is okay. Do you understand? They don't get involved in anything, and if you upset them in any way, we're done. That's not enough time, she cried. Can't we talk again when they go to bed? I don't know, I said. It depends on what you say between now and when I go to pick them up. You've got an hour and a half? Make the most of it. I will, she promised. Please, can we just sit down? I followed her into the living room, where she sat down on the couch and patted the seat next to her. I sat down in the chair across from the coffee table. This made her cry again, and she covered her face with her hands. I sat back and waited. You're wasting your time, I finally told her. She grabbed a towel from the bar and wiped her face, sitting back down. She could barely speak. She was crying so hard. I'm so sorry, Shell, she said. I made a huge mistake. I never thought you would find out. I love you so much. You love me so much that you're having fun with my brother? I asked. Don't do that, she pleaded. It sounds so cheap and dirty. It is cheap and dirty, I said. You can't wrap it in ribbon. That's what you've been doing. You would have done it today if I hadn't caught you. I never planned it. It just happened. I'm so sorry, she cried even harder. I don't know what I was thinking. I was really stupid before we got married, Shell. You know that. I met Mark before I met you. I slept with him a few times, and after he met Chloe, we still went out occasionally, all three of us. I know you think she's beautiful, Shell. I thought the four of us could... All I had to do was... entertain him, I finished for her. No. I just wanted us all to love each other. We could all be together. I was going to include you, I swear, Shell. You were scheduled for an entertainment session this afternoon. No, I told him I wasn't going to do that. She sobbed. Yes, because you thought I knew. What if I hadn't known? I wasn't going to... It doesn't matter, you knew. How did you know? What difference does it make? Shouted I. You were going to entertain the creepy bastard. Do you know what that does to you, Sarah? Please, Shell, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't think it would turn out like this. It doesn't have to be this ugly. It can be fun. I'll still be with you. You can sleep with Chloe. I felt the bile rising in my throat and ran to the bathroom to throw up. I spit up for a minute and she tried to give me a washcloth and stroke me. I pushed her away and rinsed my mouth out. We went back and sat down. Did you hear what you just said? I asked. This could be fun. The next thing you're going to say is it was just sex. Jesus, Sarah, do you realize what a damn cliche you've turned into? It makes me want to beat the shit out of you. Yeah, do whatever you want, Shell. I won't say a word. I've earned it. Please, just forgive me. I didn't think you'd find out. I never thought about how much it would hurt you until I thought you knew. When you left last night with the girls, I knew something was wrong. And when you didn't want to sleep in our bed, I knew you were in a lot of pain. I knew you found out. I wanted to tell you and apologize, but you wouldn't let me in. I got up early to tell you and beg you to forgive me, but you left before I had a chance. I should have waited until... Please, Shell, I'm begging you. Do you still love me? Damn you, Sarah. How can you ask me that after what you've done? I loved you yesterday morning, and last week, and for the last 10 years. But that didn't stop you, did it? How the hell do you expect me to trust you after that? How do you expect me to believe anything you say? I don't know, she sobbed. I'll earn back your trust. I'll prove that you can trust me. I'll do anything. Just tell me what you want me to do. Do you want to entertain Chloe or someone else? I won't say anything. Please, just let me get my chance back. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. Haven't you ever made a mistake? Yes, I've made a lot of mistakes. I make mistakes every day, I said. Last week I forgot to pay my cable bill. I spilled paint on the garage floor. I didn't forget I was married, and neither did you. That wasn't a mistake. It was a betrayal. The mistake would have been if you took him from me. I don't know how to deal with this, Sarah. Tell me how I'm going to get over it. I don't know, she cried. But I'll do anything. We can get help. I'll see a counselor. I'll wear a bracelet. I'll quit my job. I'm desperate, Shell. I never meant to hurt you. I don't want to lose the girls over this. Please give me a chance to make this right. Oh my God, the girls, I said. I have to go and get them. Get yourself cleaned up, Sarah. If you're not under control by the time I get back, I swear to God, I will throw you out of this house. Not a hint, do you understand? Yes, I'll take a bath. I'll behave, I promise. Can we talk again when they go to bed? You can't promise me a damn thing, Sarah. Don't make me any promises, I yelled. You threw away the only promise that matters, to give up everything else. Do you remember that promise? She just collapsed. Yes, I'm so sorry, but I forgot. Shell, can we talk later? Yes, we can. I'm just leaving now. Get cleaned up, Sarah. I was 10 minutes late picking up the girls. When I pulled up to the school, I saw them sitting on a bench in front of the school. A woman was sitting between them with her arm around their shoulders. She was a young woman of indeterminate ethnicity, possibly Hispanic and black. She looked to be in her early 20s. As I got closer, I was struck by everything. This woman was simply gorgeous. She looked tall and slender, and she had the biggest and warmest brown eyes I had ever seen. There were golden sparkles in those eyes, and the mop of shiny curls on top of her head framed one of the most beautiful faces I'd ever seen. Her skin was light coffee-colored and flawless. She smiled as I approached, and her face lit up like a beacon. Her teeth sparkled, and she nudged the girls. They looked up and saw me approaching. They jumped up and flew across the grass, and an avalanche of little girls descended on me. You're late, Daddy, Kember said. I'm sorry, baby, I told her. I lost track of time. It won't happen again. It's okay, Carmen said. Miss Brooks stayed with us. She rose to her feet from the bench, and I watched mesmerized as she came over and held out her hand to me. Mr. Clanton? I'm Carly Brooks, she said. I adore your girls. I'm so lucky to have them living in my room. Sheldon, I took her hand. She had long, thin fingers, and they were cool and soft in my hand. I realized I'd been holding on too long, and I shamefully dropped her hand. Thank you so much for waiting with them. I'm so sorry, Miss Brooks. I could barely speak. This woman was a walking wet dream. Carly, she corrected me. Sheldon, do you think I could talk to you for a minute? Girls, can you wait in the car for a minute? I asked. Just a minute? They hugged the teacher and, holding hands, walked to the car. She smiled after them. I hope you're very proud of them, she said. They're the nicest kids in this school. That's why I wanted to talk to you. They were upset this morning. They told me that their mom was crying this morning and that she cried all the way to school until she dropped them off. Is everything okay at home? Did something die in the family or something? I swore to myself. No, Carly, not everything is fine. Everything will be, and I'll make sure it never happens again. Their mother and I are having a lot of trouble right now. I'll try to keep them out of it. I'm very sorry. Can you talk to me about it? She asked. I'm a good listener, and I'll do anything for those little girls. Thank you, but I can't talk right now, I told her. It hurts too much, and I don't know where this is going yet. But I appreciate it. Maybe when things are smoother, I'll tell you, but right now it hurts too much. She reached out, and her fingers gently stroked my jaw. I realized she was very tall. Her eyes were almost level with mine, and my height was 6'3". She smiled. Her hand dropped, and she walked back into the building. I stared after her for another minute. She was poetry in motion. She looked over her shoulder and smiled when she saw me watching her. My face flushed, and I walked to my car. I felt the touch of her fingers on my cheek for hours more. The Munchkins chatted happily until we were almost home. Daddy, Mom was crying this morning, Carmen said. Were you mean to her? I laughed. Maybe a little, I said. I won't do it again, okay? Okay, she said. I don't like it when she's sad. Bray doesn't like it either. I know. I'm sorry about that. It's just that people fight sometimes, you know? I know, Daddy, Kember said. Carmen's mean to me all the time, but I don't give her a reason to cry. Hey, you're the one who's a big meanie, Carmen objected. I had to laugh. None of you are mean. It's just that people fight sometimes. I'll try to be kinder. You're always nice to us, she said. When we got home, Sarah was still in the bathroom, but when she came out, she was quite normal. Her eyes were a little puffy, but she smiled and hugged the girls. We had a nice dinner and they sat on the floor at our feet and we watched TV. It was a nice time, but I was dreading bedtime. I read to them and kissed them goodnight. I saw Sarah watching them from the doorway with a sad smile on her face. She was gone when I turned out the lights and was waiting at the foot of the stairs. Do you want to talk in bed? She asked. I'm not sleeping with you, I said. They'll find out if you don't, she said. Don't do that, Shell. Make me feel as good as I can. I need you to hold me. I need you to not be. Whatever. I caught myself. Tears ran down her cheeks. We undressed in silence and I lay on my back, staring up at the ceiling. I could feel the bed shaking and knew she was still crying. Shell, do you want to make love? She asked quietly. I'll let you. I know you've always wanted to, her voice trailed off. Jesus Christ, I exploded. I'm going to the spare bedroom. She grabbed my hand. Please, Shell. Forgive me. Don't go away. Please, just talk to me. I won't hurt you, I swear. I don't want to lose you. I don't know what to do or say. I'm just floundering. Please just punish me and then forgive me. No, I won't make any promises. Shell, do I have a chance to make it up to you? Do I have a chance at all? Honestly, I don't know how, Sarah, I said. I despise you so much, it's killing me. I've loved you since we were in high school. I wish it weren't so. It wouldn't hurt so much if I didn't. What can we do? How can we go back to the way things were? How do I know you won't just entertain a gas station attendant to pay the bill? Damn you, Shell, that's not fair. I'm not a whore and you know it. You're the only man I've ever loved in my life. Don't you dare tell me what's fair, I growled. Is it fair that you've been having fun with this asshole for God knows how long? Is it fair that a man who has loved you since we were in high school has to live with the fact that his wife is a slut who tried to sway him to do the same? Is it fair that our girl's mom is a cheating bitch? Is it fair that you're a liar and a cheater? Screw you, Sarah. Don't tell me who you are. I know who you are. Screw this, it's not going to work. I don't want to hear your bullshit. You won't even take responsibility for what you've done. I want you out of here. In the morning, you're going to tell the girls you're going to stay at your sister's for a few days. I don't care what excuse you give them. Make something up, you're a good liar. Just leave when I get home tomorrow. She started crying hysterically. I'm sorry I said that, Sheldon. Please don't make me leave. No, you made your own choice to be an abomination with asshole without thinking of me or the girls. I'm making this one, and I'm not considering you. This is my house. I inherited it from my grandparents, and I don't want you living here. When can I come back? She sobbed. I don't know. Maybe never. Don't make me angry, Sarah. Maybe I'll get better after a while. Maybe you'll figure out how to fix things, or maybe I'll figure something out. I can't breathe when you're here. Every time I look at you, I see that bastard unzipping your dress. I'm going to go to the couch. I left her crying on the bed and took my pillow and went to the couch. The next morning I left again at 5:30 and she still wouldn't get up. When I picked up the Munchkins after school, they told me that she had gone to Aunt Sophie's to help her while she was sick. They were a little upset because they were supposed to run a 5-kilometer race with her on Saturday. I told them I would work out with them instead, and they got excited. Sarah called them, and they had a long talk about the 8. She texted me, and all she said was, "I'm sorry." On Friday, I took the day off, and I got a call from Sophie. She wanted to come and talk to me, and I agreed. She's Sarah's younger sister, and I've always had a soft spot for her. When I opened the door, she was angry. She came in and poured herself a cup of coffee. She was about 14 when Sarah and I got together, and she was just an angel. After Sarah and I got married, she spent more time at our house than at her parents', and we were still very close. "What is wrong with you, Sheldon?" she spat out. "Sarah is dying in my house, and you just sit here and let her. She won't stop crying the whole time she's there. Come and pick her up and bring her home." "Did she tell you why she's there?" "She made a mistake and slept with them, Sheldon." "You forgave her last time. What's the big deal?" I couldn't believe my ears. "What the hell are you talking about last time?" said I. I felt very calm. Her eyes got big and she covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh my God," she gasped. "She never told you, did she?" "Sophie, tell me what the hell you're talking about," I said. "No," she said. "I'll let her tell you. She promised me she would tell me, and she said she did, and you forgave her. That's all I want to say. I'm sorry, Shell. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I came in here in a semi-conscious state, and I apologize. I'm going to talk to her." She kissed my cheek, and not 10 minutes later the doorbell rang. It was John and Alicia, Sarah's parents. It wasn't nice. I invited them in, and we sat down at the bar to drink coffee. "We're very disappointed in you, Sheldon," Alicia began. "Are you disappointed in me or Sarah?" I asked. "You kicked her out of the house," John said. "Why would we be disappointed in her?" "Did she tell you why?" I asked. "We haven't seen her," said Alicia. "Why don't you tell us why?" "Look, I love you both, but I'm not telling you anything," I said. "If you want to know, ask her. In the meantime, maybe you should do a little fact-checking before you get disappointed in someone. Now you're welcome here anytime. You can see the girls anytime you want, but don't come back here to have this conversation with me again. Find out what's going on, and then we'll talk once. After that, it'll be over. It's really none of your business. Now I have some things to do, so I have to go. Finish your coffee, wait for the girls to get home, whatever, but I gotta go." I left them there with their mouths open. As I got into the Hellcat, my mind was reeling. The conversation with Sophie had knocked me out, and then John and Alicia arrived. Apparently there had been another incident, and Sophie knew about it. Sarah had promised her that she would tell me about it, but she hadn't. It made the situation look even worse. What am I supposed to do now? Driving my baby girl always gave me at least temporary peace of mind, and I pulled onto the freeway, heading north. There wasn't much traffic, and I had the Hemi's engine slightly ajar. I looked down and saw I was doing 85. It felt good. I looked in the rearview mirror. There was a new yellow Mustang GT driving behind me. It was too close for the speed we were traveling at, and it pissed me off. I pressed down on the gas pedal, and that big Hemi howled. The supercharger roared, and I took off like I was being launched. This engine burns 1.5 gallons of gasoline per minute at full throttle, and 650 lb-ft of torque spins the wheels like a freight train. The Mustang immediately began to fall behind. It held on until we passed 120, but by the time I got to 150, it was just a yellow dot. I stopped at the next exit. I needed gas, and there was a convenience store there. I pulled up to the pump and held out my credit card. I heard a motor rumbling on the other side of the pumps, but I didn't pay much attention to it. "Sheldon, is that you?" I heard a woman's voice say. I looked over, and there was a yellow Mustang. Carly Brooks was getting out of it. She was walking down the pumps toward me. She was wearing a button-down shirt and jeans. I noticed she was wearing white flip-flops, and her toenails were painted the same yellow color as her car. She looked absolutely stunning. "Miss Brooks, why aren't you teaching my daughters how to conjugate verbs?" I laughed. She walked closer and leaned against a pillar. "I took a personal day," she said. "I thought it was your car that whizzed past me. I tried to catch up with you and wave. God, you're so hot." "I didn't know you liked cars," I said. "That's a beautiful pony you have." "Do you have him complete?" "No, I put a lot of labor into him." "I can't believe you just walked away and left me like that." "It's the coolest muscle car ever made," I told her. "I like the Mustang, though." "What are you doing here?" "I live here," she said. "And you?" "Just trying to blow off steam," I told her. "That rough patch I was telling you about has turned into a mountain, and I just need to clear the brain fog a little." "Well, if we drove as fast as we did, we could both go to jail," she laughed. How about I buy you a cup of coffee and you let some of that fog out in my direction? Miss Brooks, I don't think you want to hear about my problems, I told her. I told you to call me Carly, she said. Come on, there's a Starbucks right down the street. I'll tell you a story and you tell me a story, okay? I agreed and pumped her gas. I followed her and we went inside. I ordered my usual triple espresso and she ordered something like a latte with lots of foam. She took a sip and looked at me. I couldn't keep from laughing. I have a mustache, don't I? She grinned. Yes, I tucked them away with my napkin. Her huge brown eyes looked at me with an unusual look. What's going on with you? She asked. Why were you driving so fast? Driving fast for me is like a shot of whiskey for other people, I said. When I'm upset, I drive or run. It calms me down and helps me think. Why do you need a shot glass? She asked. I'm not trying to pry, it's just that you look like you need someone to talk to. Carly, are you married? No, but I was engaged once. Can you tell me why you're no longer engaged? I asked. Yes, but I think if you don't burden me, it's only fair, she replied. She was sipping her latte and I could tell she was gathering her thoughts. I can't do that, she finally said. I'm sorry, Sheldon. I have to go. She stood up, and I could see tears streaming down her high cheekbones. I stood up and walked over to her. I pushed her back into the booth and sat down next to her. She protested, but I ignored her. I took one of her long, thin hands in mine. I'm sorry, Carly, I told her. I didn't mean to upset you. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. I didn't make a deal. I was just trying to find a place to start. It's okay, she said. If you don't let me out, I'm going to crawl under the table. I'm sorry, Sheldon, but I can't do that right now. It's too painful for me. I let her out. She stood up and hugged me. I just have to go, she said. I'm sorry I couldn't help you. It's okay, I told her. Will you let me buy you another cup of coffee sometime? I promise I won't make you cry. Usually girls have to get to know me a little before I make them cry. She let out a wet chuckle. That wasn't you. Yeah, call me sometime. I love your girls, Sheldon. I know you're a good father. She slid out of the car, and the little yellow Mustang shrieked its tires as she pulled away. It was time to pick up the girls, and I went to get them. They did their homework, and we went to Red Lobster's. They had endless shrimp, and we all love shrimp. By the time we were done, our table resembled a shrimp graveyard. The next day was a 5-kilometer race, and I had planned to run. It got postponed because Sarah wasn't there, and I agreed to run. We were seated at a table at the 3-kilometer marker, with water and Gatorade on a small table. When runners got there, they could grab a bottle and take it with them. There was supposed to be another worker there, but he hadn't shown up yet. I heard a car drive by in the distance, but the road was blocked by trees. I was shocked when a little yellow pony pulled up and Carly got out of it. She looked amazing. The girls squealed when they saw her and ran up to hug her. They took her by the arms and led her to her room. I could see she was uncomfortable. Hi, Carly, I greeted her. How did we get so lucky? She smiled and relaxed. Virtue reward, she smiled. We chatted merrily for a while, and then I heard the sound of a car pulling up. It was a huge Ford pickup. The door must have towered about 5 feet above the ground. I recognized it. It belonged to the baseball coach. He was an aging high school sports hero. Everyone knows him. His glory days as a sports star 15 years ago had created in his mind an image of God's gift to the earth, and in particular, to women. He had a shaved head and was about 6 feet tall. He played sports, it was obvious, and walked with his arms almost parallel to the ground so everyone could see how strong he was. His name was Hawk or Falcon or one of those birds of prey. He walked over to the table. Carly, how are you doing here, dear? Mister. Harrier, she replied. I'm not going to tell you again not to address me by my first name. We're not friends, and if you call me honey again, I'll file a complaint that you're creating a hostile work environment. His jaw dropped. What are you, a lesbian? He became indignant. Of course, that might have been the only possible explanation for any woman not falling to her knees in front of him. Your wife certainly didn't complain when I was at her house, Carly said. The girls gasped, and he jerked his hand away. I stood up and he looked at me. He may have outnumbered me by 20 pounds in 10 years, but he was a bully, and bullies don't want to discover any surprises. He didn't know me, so he walked back and got in his truck. "Girls, I'm sorry I talked like that," she said. "That man has been hitting on me since I got here, and I'm sick of it." "That's no excuse." "I'm sorry." Bray hugged her. "It's okay, Miss Brooks. We don't like him anyway. He follows all the young girls on his cross-country team. He's just creepy." Carly looked at me, and we both burst into laughter. "Remind me not to make you mad," I told her. "You have a mean streak in you, Carly." The first contestants started showing up, and for a while we were busy as bees. I asked the girls if they wanted to take Carly for wings later, and they were very excited about it. She agreed to come with us, and we headed home to get cleaned up. I know a place that serves some of the best wings on the planet. It was called Hackett's, and it was run by an old friend of mine. He was an older black man from Memphis, and he knew how to make wings. We were having a blast, and I didn't want it to end. Carly and the girls took my mind off Sarah, and it felt good to be human for a little while. But it couldn't last long, and when I got home, my phone had a dozen missed calls from her. It had been off all day, and as soon as I turned it on, it lit up like a Christmas tree. I put the girls to bed and called her. "Shell, I need to talk to you," she said. "Can I come over?" "Don't you have a date?" I asked. "Asshole too busy?" She sobbed. "Please, just let me come over, Sheldon. I can explain everything." "Okay, come over," I said. I finished talking, and 30 minutes later I heard her open the door. I thought about changing the locks. When she walked in, she looked like a wreck. She tried to hug me, but I reached out and pushed her away. "Sarah, I swear to God, if you touch me, I'll throw up on you," I told her. She immediately cried and came over and sat down. "Can I just talk to you?" she cried. "Let me just speak my mind." I sat down across from her again at the table. She stared at the floor. "I know what Sophie said." His voice was so quiet I could barely hear her. "So you decided to come clean?" I asked. "Yes. I didn't want to tell you before. Thought you'd hate me." She caught me, Shell. "She threatened to tell you if I didn't. I told her I would, but I couldn't. You were so happy, and I couldn't think about how it would make you feel. It was just, no, I'm not going to say it." I was drunk. One night we were at a Christmas party at school. All the kids had gone home, and you went with them. We started drinking. You know how it is in Catholic schools. Even Father Peter was drunk. Mark and Chloe were there. I just started talking to him. He was always saying how much he loved me. Do you know how long it's been since anyone but you said that to me? I feel like I'm getting old, Shell. I don't think I'm as pretty as I used to be. Do you know how many men have hit on me over the years? I like it when men think I'm beautiful. I've danced with them. They'll never get to me, but it made me feel good to know they wanted to. Barbara Jansen was there. Do you remember her? She was a freshman when we were seniors. She was a pretty little blonde who always thought she was something special. She married one of the teachers at an all-girls school. She said something to me about me looking old. I was drunk and it really hit me. Then Mark came over and asked if I wanted to dance. He was as charming and handsome as ever and kept telling me how beautiful I was. He kept telling me how good school was. I was drunk as hell and let him talk me into going out on the porch in the back of the house. It was so stupid, but I just felt really vulnerable. I made him feel good. I was so sorry. I felt disgusted with myself after I did it. I just couldn't believe that I was the kind of person who would do something like that. I'm so sorry. Sophie came out on the porch with her bow and caught me. She threatened to tell you. She called me all kinds of names and told me I was crazy for flirting with you. She said if I told you, she wouldn't mention it. I couldn't tell you. I was so ashamed and I was so afraid you'd leave me. I told her I told you and you forgave me. I wish I'd told you. That's when it all started again. I screwed it up, Shell. I'm a stupid bitch and I messed it up. I'm so sorry. I hate myself, and if I made you hate me, I don't know how I can go on. I've never loved anyone but you. And I never will. Please, Shell, don't hate me. Please forgive me. I swear to God, if you let me make it up to you, I'll work like a slave. I'll do anything you say. Please don't leave me. Please don't take my girls away from me. What can I do? I'll do anything. I know now that you will never accept that. Sarah, I don't know what you can do, I said. I haven't had time to decide what I should do. How can I trust you? You've lied to me several times. You told me you were working late and you actually cheated on me. What if I forgive you and one day you have to work late? What would I have to think about? How will I be able to not wonder if you're having fun with some guy? How does that work? She cried uncontrollably. I don't know, Shell. All I know is that I love you and the girls and I see what I've done. I see how my stupidity has hurt us and our family. I love you more than anyone. What do you want to do? Do you still love me? That's the problem, Sarah. I still love you. I'm just not sure you ever loved me. I'm not sure I believe you about everything. No, I'm sure I don't. I have to assume that everything you tell me is a lie. Are you being honest with me? I'll never know, and I don't think I'll ever believe anything you tell me. Here's your chance. If you're hiding something, tell me now. It won't change anything? I can't be angrier at you than I am right now. This is your only chance. I swear to God I'm honest, she said. There's nothing else. I love you, Sheldon. I don't love anyone else, and I never have. I did it. It was just... Don't say that, Sarah, I interrupted her. You were going to cheat, and you cheated. It wasn't... No, okay, I know you don't want to hear that. I just want you to realize that it meant nothing to me. I don't love Mark or Chloe. I thought you might want to join us. Now I see that you never want to, and that was a mistake. Well, it sure meant something to me, I told her. The problem is that it meant nothing to you. If I was having fun with some stranger, would it mean something to you? It's not the same thing, she said. It's exactly the same thing, I told her. Screw it. If you keep trying to dodge and evade responsibility and minimize what you've done, it's not going to work. I'm going to see a lawyer tomorrow, Sarah. I suggest you do the same. Why? She asked. Why do I need a lawyer? When I file for divorce, you'll need one, I told her. She let out a little squeal and fell over. I said nothing, and she sobbed for about 5 minutes before she could speak. I don't want a divorce, she sobbed. Please, Shell, why do you want a divorce? I told you I'd do anything. You don't even want to step forward and admit how badly you screwed up, I told her. You're trying to make excuses and minimize your cheating like there was nothing to it. No, it didn't, she protested. I can see how much it hurt you, and I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make you realize that I only love you. They don't mean anything to me. You're my man. So you were willing to sleep with me for people who meant nothing to you? Is that what you're telling me? Is that supposed to make me feel better? I don't know what I'm saying, she sobbed. I'll say whatever you want me to say. I'm just trying to say something to get another chance, to get you to forgive me. Tell me what you want me to say. How about I'm sorry, Sheldon? I screwed up and it won't happen again? Yeah, I'm sorry. I screwed up and I won't do it again. Can I please go home, Shell? I'm dying without you. It kills me that I can't be around the girls. I'll do anything. I'll sleep in the spare bedroom. I'll be your slave. I'll cook, I'll clean, and you can use me however you want. You can have girlfriends or whatever else you need to get over it. Actually, I can, I told her. You know I met someone I'm really interested in? I was afraid of that, she said. Go on a date with her. Bring her here and I'll cook for you. I'm as serious as I can be, Shell. I'll do anything to be a part of your life. I just want to live with you and the girls. Just give me a chance to get you back. I'll never have another man as long as I live. If you need to get revenge or punish me, I know I deserve it. I'll take my blows and I'll never complain. Just give me a chance. Let me think about it, I told her. I'll call you tomorrow and let you know what I've decided. Don't say a word to the girls, okay? No, I won't. I'll do whatever you say. Thanks for talking to me, Sheldon. I know I don't even deserve it. You're a good man, and I'm taking advantage of you. I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. I'm dying inside at the separation from my family. Maybe you should have thought about that. No, forget it. I'm not going to hit you, I said. I need you to talk to someone, Sarah. With pastors, rabbis, counselors, or anyone else. I don't think you have the right moral compass. Will you do it? Yes, I'll do anything, she said. She left, and I lay awake most of the night thinking. I didn't want her to come back. The thought that she couldn't be serious about what she had done, that it meant nothing to her, kept me awake. How could I accept her back if she didn't even see anything wrong with what she had done? The only thing she regretted was hurting me and almost losing her family. It was so screwed up on so many levels that I didn't know where to start. The problem was the girls. How could I ruin my little girls' lives by kicking their mother to the curb? I fell asleep, still unsure of what I should do. In the morning, I had some clarity. The girls loved their mother, and she was a wonderful mother. They didn't deserve anything like that, and I needed to make their lives as good as possible. I was sure that living with a cheating whore would not be good for them. I called work and got the day off. When the girls got up, I told them I was picking them up from school so we could talk. It was the hardest conversation of my life. I didn't tell them that their mother was a cheating whore. I just told them that we had some issues we needed to work out. She won't live with us, and we are trying to work out our problems. They cried as if someone had died. At first, they accused me of messing things up, but when I told them I didn't do anything, they realized what was wrong. Did Mom do something bad? Asked Kembra. Dad, did she cheat on you? I'm not going to tell you anything bad about your mom, I told them. She loves you very much, and you shouldn't blame her for anything. It has nothing to do with you girls. You are the best girls I could ever imagine, and we both love you with all our hearts. Just give me a chance to work things out, okay? They reluctantly agreed, and we talked for a long time. I called Sarah, and we met for lunch. When I told her I needed to be alone, she was confused. I get angry every time I look at you, Sarah, I told her. You need to stay away from me. I've decided I can never forget what you did. You may have cost me any relationship with anyone in my family. I'm divorcing you, Sarah. I'll let you see the girls anytime you want. We have a prenup that says if either of us cheats, the innocent party keeps the house. You won't be short of money, I'll take care of that. Now the bitch came on stage. She called me every name she could, promised to turn the girls against me and take me to court. I wished her well and left. Carly called me after school and was worried about the girls. She noticed they were not at school and was very concerned. I promised her they were fine, and she asked if she could come over on Saturday and talk to me. There was a car race on Saturday and I was planning to attend. I suggested she go and she agreed. In the morning, Sarah picked up the girls and I went to pick up Carly. She was as gorgeous as ever. We had 50 miles to go and we talked a lot. Finally, she broke down and told me her story. She was engaged to a businessman from the town where she grew up. They met in high school and fell in love with each other. She was so happy, she thought she must have missed some obvious signs because at the wedding, she caught the groom in the dressing room with one of her bridesmaids. She left without saying a word to anyone and just drove away. She never spoke to anyone else in her hometown. She ended up in our town and got a job as a teacher at the school the girls went to. She was clearly upset, and the memories were still fresh and painful for her. I understood exactly how she felt. I told her about what was happening to me and Sarah. When I finished talking, her eyes filled with tears and mine were misting up a little too. She leaned over and put her head on my shoulder. Her hair was just a huge mop. All those curls were about a foot long, sticking out in all directions. After we got to the show, my phone rang, and it was my mom. Sheldon, we need to sit down and talk, she said. I'm calling a family meeting. Gail and Helen are coming in the car and we'll meet here at the house. Will Asshole be there? I asked. Your brother has something to tell you, she said. I told you what's going to happen, I said. Don't call me again, ex-mom. Sheldon, don't be like that, she pleaded. Okay, he won't be there. Are you coming? Wait a minute, I told her. Carly tried to get my attention. Talk to them, Sheldon, she said. It's the only way to move on with your life. Have you talked to your family? I asked. She grinned bitterly. No, but I know I should, and so should you. Okay, Mom, when is this meeting? I asked. Dinner tonight at 6, she said. No dinner, I told her. I'll be there at 7:30. I ended the conversation. I had a good time with Carly, and she held my hand while we looked at cars. On the way home, we talked for a while, and I asked her if she would stop by afterward so I could tell her all about it. She promised, and I dropped her off at her house. I was dreading the hell out of it. I got home to my empty house and tried to eat a little. It only made my stomach upset, so I took a couple antacids. I got the old charger out and started it up. It felt right, and that humming sound calmed my nerves. I'm sure they heard my arrival from a block away, and Mom got to the door before I did. She put her arms around me, and I just stood there, frozen like a pillar. When she looked up at me, there were tears in her eyes. She didn't say anything, just took my hand and led me inside. I heard the lock click behind me, and there was my dad standing in front of the door with a baseball bat. "We're not going to let you destroy this family because of your stubborn pride," he said. "Go get your ass down." Well, this was going to be interesting. My sisters, Gail and Helen, took me under their arms and I sat down between them. Then the three cheaters came out of Mom's bedroom. I looked at my mom. "He's your brother, she's your wife. Chloe is your sister-in-law," she said. "We can get past that." "Okay, ex-mom," I told her. "You just lost your son and your only two grandchildren. He's an asshole, not my brother, and she's a whore. I guess that makes you a whore, Mom." "We just love you, Shell," Gail replied. "We'll agree to anything you want." "I want to leave," I said. "Do you want to stay with me tonight?" "I want you to meet someone." "Girls, I thought you were going to help," Slut Mom started to panic. "Yes, we are going to help Sheldon," Helen said. "What, did you think we were here to help these scumbags?" We stood up together and walked toward the door. The pimp made a movement with the bat and I hit him. He dropped the bat and slumped to the floor, letting out a hoarse scream. I picked up the bat and turned around. The asshole saw death in my eyes and rushed to run through the kitchen and out the back door. I turned to bitch. Her eyes widened and she rushed after her asshole husband. I threw back my head and laughed. "I'm going to sue you for unlawful imprisonment," I told bitch's mom. "Don't call, write, send postcards, or try to contact the girls. I will get a restraining order against all of you." She fell to her knees and burst into hysterical tears. "Please, Sheldon, don't do this." "Forgive me. I'll make it up to you." "It's too late," I told her. "You had your chance, you chose a side. Good luck with the rest of your life. Too bad you'll spend it with people who cheat on their spouses." "There will be a restraining order for you too," I told Slut. "You're mentally unstable and I'll never leave the girls alone with you again." Helen went upstairs and picked up the twins. They looked at everyone strangely but said nothing. The slut was crying hysterically. Without saying a word, the girls and I walked out of the house and down the driveway. "Do you want to drive?" I asked Gail. I tossed her the keys. She squeaked excitedly. "Really, Shell? I've always wanted to, but you never let me." "You made the right choice," I told them. "I love my little sisters. I let them drive my cars." We bought Chinese food on the way home and Helen tried to wring our necks. On the way out, I called Carly and we bought food for her too. The twins dashed across the room when she walked in and rushed over to her. They each took her hand and led her over to their aunts. "This is our teacher, Miss Brooks," Cambry introduced her. "I think she's Daddy's girlfriend too." Carly was blushing furiously and looked simply adorable. "Comber, we're just friends. You don't have to say things like that." "Well, since Mom cheated, we want you to be with Daddy," Carmen told her. "Girls, that's enough," I scolded them. "You're embarrassing our guest. Let's go to bed with you." "Sorry, Daddy," came a soft chorus. Aunt Helen, Aunt Gail, read us a book. They escorted their aunts upstairs and left Carly and me in awkward silence. I walked over to her and she looked a little frightened. I took her hands and pulled her to me for a hug. Her curls tickled my chin and she pressed herself against me. "How about it, Carly?" I muttered. "Do you want to be my girlfriend?" She tilted her head to look into my eyes. Huge brown eyes were full of a golden sparkle. "Maybe," she whispered. "I won't be with you until you're with her," she told me. "I understand," I told her. "I'm not her, Carly. And I'm not going to be her. It's going to take time to work all this out." "I have the rest of my life," she said. The next morning, I went to see a lawyer. Her name was Marcy Gray, and she was very rude. I think at first she thought I had left my wife for a status upgrade. She was in her 40s. I wanted her to like me, but we started off on the wrong foot. If you came here to avoid paying child support, you need another lawyer, were the first words out of her mouth. That pissed me off. Okay, that's not why I'm here, but thank you for having me. I stood up and walked out. I stopped at her receptionist's desk and asked how much the reception cost. She opened her mouth, but Miss Gray interrupted her. What the hell is going on with you? She shouted. You can't just leave like that. Watch me, I told her. I don't know who you think you are, lady, but you can bite me. I don't have to listen to insults, especially from the people I hire. Back off. She puffed up like a toad frog. She opened her mouth, then started laughing. She laughed until she was in tears, then came over and took my hand. I'm sorry. She wiped away her tears of laughter. Sometimes I forget that there are decent men in the world. I see so many assholes every day that I forget. No one has talked to me like that in years. Please accept my apologies. Come back and talk to me. Tell me what's going on. Despite my misgivings, I let her walk me back into the office and she poured me a very nice whiskey. I told her the story and she got rude again, but mostly against my ex-family and slut. She called the receptionist and asked her to bring the forms. I paid her fee and signed 10,000 times. She promised that the restraining order would be obtained the same day and the divorce would begin as soon as possible. She shook my hand and the case proceeded. 3 days later, the hooker was sued and my ex was charged with unlawful restraint and terroristic threats. The pimp was even charged with attempted assault for his actions with a baseball bat. The asshole and his wife were charged with willful infliction of mental anguish, and life went back to normal. The twins were with me and Hooker was forbidden to come within 500 feet of us. When I went out to get the newspaper on Saturday morning, she was standing at the end of the block. She saw me and yelled, "Sheldon, please let me see my babies. Please, I'm so sorry. This wasn't my idea. Please, I'm begging you, let me see my babies." A few neighbors came outside to see what all the screaming was about. I walked over to her and she fell to her knees in front of me. "Please, Sheldon, I'm begging you. I'll crawl up to the house if you want me to. Please let me see the girls." "Get up, Sarah," I told her. "You're embarrassing yourself and me." "I don't care about myself," she said. "I know I've lost you, Shell. I can't lose my children. I won't embarrass you anymore. Please, just for 5 minutes. Let me see them." She clung to me and I lifted her to her feet. "Okay, you can see them," I told her. "Sarah, I told you that you could see them anytime you wanted to. And then you went and did that shit at my ex-parents' house. I swear to God, one more crazy moment like that and you'll be done. Do you understand?" Yeah, I understand, and I won't do anything crazy." "Thank you, Shell. I'll be good." We got back to the house and the girls were eating waffles. They ran up to her and she knelt down and hugged them like life preservers in a hurricane. She sobbed heartily and told them over and over how sorry she was and how much she loved them. They cried a little too and told her how much they missed her. I made her breakfast and we all sat around the bar and ate. She promised them and me that she would be their mom like before, but she wouldn't live with us. I think they understood and agreed to stay with her every weekend. I told her she could come over anytime during the week if she wanted. They left to watch TV and we sat and talked for a while. "Sheldon," she started, "I'm really sorry about what happened at your parents' house. I didn't want to do it, but your mom said we could fix it. Now I realize that's impossible. I know I hurt you too much, but I'm in my right mind now and I just want you to give me as much of a relationship as you want. I want to be a friend. I want more than that, but I realize it's not going to happen. I'll just be the best friend you've ever had. I'll be the girl's mom and we'll move on with our lives. I signed the divorce papers and I'm not fighting it. Financial matters are in order. I'm going to move into one of our apartments. One will be vacated next week and it's a nice one. Can we be friends and co-parent, Sheldon?" "We'll have to work on being friends," I told her. "Most of my friends aren't—" "No, never mind. I'll try, Sarah. I'll honestly try. I just have a lot of bad feelings about you right now. I'm sure time will heal a lot of it and we'll get along just fine. Just so you know, I'm not going out with you again, Sarah. If you really gave it up, I'm sure we'll be fine. The first time you go on a date, you'll come and tell me about it, and then I'll trust you to move on. Then we'll start working on becoming friends, okay?" There were tears in her eyes, but she nodded and hugged me. I felt sorry for her, but it was beyond me. I offered to drive her home, but she said she parked on the next street over. At the door, she turned around and looked back. I'm sorry, she said. I know, I told her. I am too. Don't apologize, Sarah. I believe you. Let's just move on. I forgive you. I'm still mad, but I'll get over it. Okay? She smiled, nodded, and left. She came over on Monday and Wednesday, and on Friday I let the girls go out to eat with her. We seemed to get into a regular rhythm and things seemed to be going well. The next week I got a call from Marcy Gray saying that my ex-family's lawyer had talked to her and wanted to set up a meeting. I declined, but she said it was in everyone's best interest, so I agreed. The only condition was that asshole wasn't there. Everyone agreed and we sat around Marcy's conference table. They were all very remorseful and full of remorse. They wanted me to drop the charges against them and were willing to do almost anything to make it happen. I told them that if they would sign agreements to never contact me or talk to me again, agree to never talk to or contact girls again, and that if the pimp would let me kick him in the balls again, I would drop all charges except those against Zazarans. Marcy liked that very much, and they agreed to all the terms except the last one. Chloe and Mom agreed, but the pimp didn't want to for some reason. He probably needed to have a baseball bat in his hand to feel comfortable having his scrotum kneaded. Mom threatened to kick him herself, and he finally agreed. Macy gasped, and I told him I wasn't going to do it right away, but he had to be ready. They signed the papers and walked out. As soon as the door closed, Marcy broke out into a mad giggle. I told her that a woman shouldn't giggle like that, and she ran off to the bathroom. When she came back, she was calm until she saw me, and it pissed her off again. Sheldon, you're such an idiot, she gasped. You almost made me shit my pants. You know I can't write about this in the papers, right? I chuckled. Well, yeah, but I like the idea of him worrying about whether or not I'm coming after him tonight. You're a hard-ass dude, she finally soothed. Are you going to stick to that? You have no idea what I've put up with because of asshole over the years, I told her. He's stolen my toys, gotten me in more trouble than you can imagine, and it's all been fine with them. Jesus, Marcy, he entertained my wife, and that was fine with them. The problem was my stubborn pride. I'm done with them. I hope they all die alone and in misery. I guess I don't blame you, she said. The divorce will be final in 60 days. What will you do then? Move on, I told her. I have a few plans. I even have a few plans for asshole. She looked at me incredulously. You won't need a criminal defense attorney, will you? God, I hope not, I said. Are you any good at anything? I do family law, she said. I'll bail you out, but I'll have to recommend a colleague if you're charged with a crime. I didn't expect to be charged. This asshole was coming out of a bar one night, and 3 masked men jumped him and dragged him into an alley. They beat him to a pulp, paying particular attention to his genitals. The police report says they asked him a question over and over again, and he couldn't understand it. It was, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?" They must have thought he was Dan Rather. He said he didn't know any Kenneth and had no idea who they were or what their frequency might be. I was with Sarah and the girls at the time, and no one questioned me. After he was released from the hospital, he was home while Chloe was out of town, and then there was a home invasion. He was beaten up again, this time by 4 guys. The questions were different. They kept asking him why he wasn't wearing socks. He had no idea what socks were supposed to be, so they played ping pong with his balls. I was on a date with Carly. A month later, he was ambushed in the parking lot at work. He couldn't quantify the number of assailants, but they asked how often he did it, and again disapproved of his choice of socks. I was at the Twins' soccer game with Sarah. I was questioned by the police that time. Assassination attempts seemed to be a favorite of jealous husbands, but I had a solid alibi for all the attacks. 2 months later, his car started having problems. 3 times a week for 2 weeks when he came home from work, it would get a flat tire. Mysterious holes in the sidewalls, maybe the size of ice picks. Security guards started watching the car, and it regained the ability to keep air in the tires while he was working. But as soon as he went into a store or bar or left it alone for a minute, the problems resumed. Injector problems took it out of service for a while due to the presence of mothballs in the fuel. The repairman said the mothballs in the gas tank were probably the cause. How it got there remains a mystery. A month later, his grill exploded when he tried to fire it up. There was a gas leak, and for a time he lost his eyebrows and eyelashes, as well as the front of his hairbrush. This streak of bad luck continued until the climax came when the airbag in his car unexpectedly deployed, causing him to crash into a tree. Of course, by then the airbag had deflated and he was injured and hospitalized. His wife, the lovely Chloe, decided that his bad luck might be starting to affect her and filed for divorce. He was afraid to step outside the threshold of his home and took a job in Cleveland selling tires. My life was going great. The divorce went smoothly and I was a free man. For about a month, Carly and Sarah walked around each other like two cats, but one day Sarah asked her out for drinks and dancing. Sarah had a date, and she asked Carly to tell me about him. He was an accountant, and Carly said his name was Bob. She thought he was a nice guy and quite handsome. The girls got along pretty well with each other, and the tension in the house eased when they were there at the same time. After that date, I started taking Sarah out to lunch about once a week, and we became good friends again. We talked about Munchkins and how the work was going, and I remembered how much I enjoyed talking to her. She seemed to be doing well, and she told me that she really liked Bob. We didn't talk about the past much, and that was good. The Saturday after the divorce was finalized, Sarah took the girls and I went with Carly. We drove up into the mountains and hit a big local festival. We walked around, looked at crafts, ate local food, and rode a few carnival rides. That evening I took her dancing, and around 1 a.m. we got quite good and went out. When I dropped her off, she invited me in, and I didn't hesitate. She stopped in the living room, and I jumped into bed with her. She tilted her head to look at me. "Sheldon, I'm in love with you," she whispered. "And do you love me?" "More than you can imagine," I told her. "I thought I'd never be happy again, Carly." "I was wrong. My girls make me happy, and you make me happy. I really do love you. I think I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I should send Zazran's a thank you card." She laughed. "Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I'm happy here with you too." We whispered about what nothing meant and what everything meant until we fell asleep with this gorgeous woman in my arms. 2 months later, she moved in with me and the twins rode to school with her every day. 6 months later, I realized I couldn't live without her, so I bought her a ring. I told the girls I was going to ask her to marry me, and I couldn't believe how excited they were. She was their idol and they worshipped at her altar. I called Sarah. She wasn't thrilled, but said she wanted me to be happy. I found out that Bob had asked her a question, and she had put it off. She said she was going to say yes, and I wished her well. I hoped she had learned something from her experience, and Bob wouldn't go through what I had to go through. I didn't say anything of the sort. I took Carly to a nice Italian restaurant and put the ring on. She squealed, and there were no more questions. When we got home, the girls were already waiting for us, and they were full. "Can we call you Mommy?" asked Kembry. "We already have a mom, but we decided we wanted to call you Mommy." Carly knelt down and snuggled up to them. Thank you, girls. I am so honored. I have loved you from the day I met you. You will always be my little girls. I'm not trying to take your mom's place, but I would be proud to have 2 angels like you call me Mom. We got married, it's been a year, and I love her more and more every day. I have never been happier. Sarah married Bob and they had a baby boy. I have never heard of the former family and I don't think I ever will. My sisters occasionally mention them, but they have nothing to do with them either. Sometimes you just have to live with your choices. They made theirs and I made mine. The worst day of my life was pretty bad, but I have a feeling the best days are yet to come. Carly is going to make sure of that. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, so subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.